Coming up this hour, Health Committee of Parliament meets leadership of striking Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association as industrial action continues to hamper healthcare delivery. Also to come, government approves payment of 2024-2025 book research allowances for senior staff. Also, we look at the threats facing Ghana's railway system following massive commercial and unauthorized encroachment along its periphery. Those are the top stories, and this is News Central. I'm Kameni Amano. The news starts now. Now, the Health Committee of Parliament is expected to meet leadership of striking Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association today. This is part of moves to help resolve the ongoing industrial action by the association. The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association declared a strike last week to demand the implementation of its 2024 collective agreement. Government, as part of efforts to resolve the impasse, has proposed that the agreement be implemented in 2026. Government argued that implementing the agreement will throw the budget off gear as the financial commitments involved were not captured in the 2025 national budget. Meanwhile, the strike continues to bite hard at the Kumasi South Hospital in the Ashanti region. Our reporter William Evans Income described the situation as dire. Let's watch the following report and engage William subsequently.
The Kumasi South Hospital, about 80% of delivery here, I'm talking about healthcare delivery here, is done by these nurses. And this is one of the most critical units in the hospital. That's the Mali and Baby unit. There are only three. One here, one at Konfanaji Teaching Hospital, and Menshia Government Hospital. And this is where babies are nurtured clinically, especially those that you will call premature. They are nurtured here just so they will have their life. And if you come here, there's only the doctor who is working. Ordinarily, you're supposed to have a nurse working on this particular baby.
As much as we are able to do the work that nurses do, but we are not, our number is not as much as the nurses' number. So it's very difficult for us to continue taking care of very sick babies on admission in the absence of our nurses.
Well, it's the 9th day of the strike, but the 4th day of a full-blown strike. Evans is still here with us. William, talk to us about the situation now. We saw the situation in Kumasi South Hospital, but, you know, there are other facilities. What are you picking up from those facilities?
Well, so we are Central Hospital. I can tell you that it is very dire. As you can see, the OPD looks almost deserted. Not that patients are not coming, they come, but they are told that the nurses are not here working, and they are giving about 80% contribution when it comes to health delivery, talking about their role here. So they are not here working, and most of them are referred to private facilities. So that is what is happening here. The doctors are around, but their numbers are very meager, and they are overwhelmed by the numbers that are coming here. So even before you get here, at the gate, the security man will tell you, well, the nurses are not around, and if your case is critical, then it is advisable that you seek medical care elsewhere. Elsewhere, we're talking about a private facility. But let's listen to the medical superintendent of the St. Joseph Hospital, Dr. Ejaku Puku, as he explains how dire the situation is.
Creator at the gate will often tell them they are not around. So most of them do not even come in. And of course, people have heard that the nurses are not around and we are not operating critical cases, and therefore they don't even enter the facilities. Few ones that will be driven here or driven here are also asked to go to another place, and those who walk in critical will then be assisted of the ambulance to go to where they can get.
I see, Evans. Talk to us. We know that the minister had called on retired nurses to come back into the fold and assist with the situation. Apart from that, there were certain hospitals that were also detailed as, better options to private hospitals for those who cannot afford. Are you telling us it's not had any impact on the situation at all?
Well, there's not a single retired nurse here. And when I spoke to one of the workers here, he told me that they are not sure whether they will even come, because even them, they're already tired. So they do not see how impactful they will have on the patients, even if they are allowed to, come and then work temporarily as government tries to deal with the current impasse. So if it comes to St. Hospital, there's no a retired nurse working here.
I see. Evans, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. William Evans Inkum is our Ashanti region correspondent. We'll now head to the Bono East region, where our correspondent is reporting that private hospitals across the region are experiencing a significant surge in OPD numbers as the ongoing nationwide strike continues to bite hard. Let's bring in now Belinda Tete, who is our correspondent in that area. Belinda, good afternoon to you. You talk about a surge in private hospitals. Explain that to us.
Right. Good afternoon. And if I'm talking about the surge, I'm talking about a rise in OPD numbers. So when you look at the Tichman enclave, we have the Tichman North and the Tichman South. Now, almost all the government facilities, government health facilities, both in Tichman North and in Tichman South, are actually offering little to no services due to the strike of the registered nurses and midwives. And so due to this, almost all patients who initially go to some of these government facilities have decided to send their attention to the private facilities. I'm currently here at the Zoomlion Hospital, and as you can see behind me, there are a lot of patients here waiting to be looked after. And so initially before the strike, the president tells me that they usually used to get about 150 or lesser numbers, lesser than 150 per day. But after the strike for like a week now, they are registering about over 200 OPD numbers daily. And this is actually having a strain on their facility.
I see, Belinda. I'm sure this is having an impact on their ability to take on all these numbers. What are hospital managements of these private clinics telling you?
Right. So they tell me that even though since there is a health facility, they can't turn away these people that comes. So they try their best to offer the services they need. But then it is critically having an impact on them. When I'm talking about an impact, I'm talking about the number of hours they would have to operate. Aside that, I'm talking about the strain it is having, the pressure it's having on these nurses who have very little time to themselves when they are on duty, because they are unable to even go on break sometimes because they have to look after these patients. Aside that, it is actually having a strain on their logistics. I'm talking about beds. So this morning when I walked in, we realized that all their beds are full. And so if someone even come in that would need admission, they can't take in the person because all their beds are full and their wards are all full. And so they would have to give the person a first aid for the person to go back. So these are some of the strains or some of the implications it is having on them. They are just hoping that as soon as possible, government should be able to negotiate and come to a threshold where these nurses would be able to understand to come back to service so that some of these pressures can also ease on these private facilities.
Belinda, thank you so much for the report. And Belinda Tete reports from the Bono East region. Let's have a quick chat on the back of this. Reverend Richard Anandonko is Public Relations Officer for the Professional Association of Psychiatric Nurses Ghana. Now, this group met the Health Minister only yesterday. They are not on strike. Reverend, good afternoon to you. We still hear how patients are reeling because of the strike of the members of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. You, on the other hand, are still at work. You had the opportunity to meet the minister yesterday. Are we seeing an end to this anytime soon?
Right, thank you, Kamini, and my regards to your cherished viewers. Yes, the Professional Association of Psychiatric Nurses Ghana, the Union of Professional Nurses and Midwives Ghana, the Ghana Registered Midwives Association, and the National Association of Registered Midwives Ghana, the leadership of these four unions were at the Health Minister's office yesterday. After that, we also engaged the Director General of Ghana Health Service, we engaged the Trade Union Congress, and also engaged the Fair Wages Salary, of which we've had a fruitful outcome from that kind of engagement. But before then, I would take the opportunity to make some clarifications. I think Nanaya Jantua was on your show this morning, on your station this morning, and she made a statement that the Professional Association of Psychiatric Nurses Ghana, we took the matter to court, yes, but now we are against the implementation. No, we are not against the implementation. We are against the strike, and we are against the process of which the whole thing is going. So we are actually in for the implementation of the COS as signed, and we are not against it. Now, Kamini, I would be grateful if you can give me some time to let Ghanaians understand why we are against these things, or the demonstration, the strike itself. There are some things that yesterday we had to explain to the stakeholders, of which they got to understand it better, and now have given positive response, of which we are going to, we are very clear that we are going to get the response soon. Now, something like a fuel allowance, it's already on our pay slips, and it's for just the principal nurses officers and above. So if you are a nursing officer, if you are a staff nurse or whatever, now you are not up to that level, and know that you are not enjoying it. And it's already being employed. It's only that the new COS just did some adjustment, a slight increase in it, and that is why we've gotten here. Something like the non-basic salary of that 8%, non-basic 8%, it's also being enjoyed by all staff. So we don't know why this graph around it. Something like the rural incentives, it's also for people who are in the rural settings, and that one will
absolutely, Reverend. So let's come back to the issue at hand. Your group and a few others met with the health minister only yesterday. Now, talk to us about what that meeting achieved in getting your demands.
So in that meeting, we had to explain to the minister that yes, most of the things are already in the system. They are already implemented. So we only need the slight increase or the adjustment that has been added, as compared to the kind of information out there that everything is going to be something that has to be implemented afresh. No, it's not like that. So the health minister now has a better understanding of the whole process and has assured that yes, if that is it, then it's not anything that has to delay as he has got into. So he has assured that soon and very soon he's going to engage the finance minister and all other stakeholders. That is how come we have to engage the Fair Wages and other stakeholders as well. So we are very of the conviction that we are of the conviction that very soon the health minister will come out and we will end this matter once and for all.
I see. And how are your members responding to this?
It's not easy. Yes, they are putting pressure on us to join the strike. As initially, when the health minister came out that they were going to employ the retired nurses, but now having explained these things to them and having made them understand that this is how the whole thing is, they are now calm and they are waiting for a fruitful outcome from our engagement within the shortest possible time that we are also looking at. So that is how far our members are coping with the issue. But we are still at work.
Reverend, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Reverend Richard Donko is PRO for the Psychiatric Nurses Association. Let's continue to check the pulse of the nation as members of the GRNMA are on strike. Now to the Bono region, where Claude Kumi Ebisa, our correspondent on the ground, reports that the strike is indeed biting hard on day 9. Claude is joining us now with a bit more from Fiapre in Sunyane. Claude, thank you so much for talking to us this afternoon. But you visited the SDA hospital. Is that where you're talking to us from?
Well, currently, as we are talking, I'm at the SDA hospital. And as you rightly said, the strike is really hitting hard here. The patients who are here to receive care are complaining because the pressure here is too much. Some have to travel from all the way from the western region to this place to receive medical care. But it's like the pressure here is too much. The nurses here are not all that many because it's a mission hospital. The health workers here are not so much to be able to attend to them as expected. Usually, this facility is supposed to report an OPD case of 200 cases daily, but as we speak, it is recording over 400 cases, which is over 100% of what they normally do. So this is it has put in a pressure on this facility. But I've been speaking to the administrator of the facility, and he tells me that's Eno Opoku Nketia, and he tells me the pressure is really hard on them, and then especially when you get to the OP, the antenatal unit, the maternal unit, and then the emergency unit. Those are the places that's the strike is really affecting. So let's take a listen to what he had to say.
My name is Opoku Nketia Enoch. Yeah, convention that we work with. And if you look at the attendance, because we took data as of yesterday, and you could realize from the 9th and the 10th, the attendance at the OPD is doubling, even to some extent, the 3 times of the usual average daily attendances that we get. And this is, for some managers, this will be a good, like a good day for you because your attendance is going up. But we don't see it that way because it kind of also puts a lot of pressure on the facility infrastructure, the health workers that are currently at post. Yeah, so it's really having a lot of impact. And I must also even add that the most populated area as far as the hospital is concerned is the emergency.
Claude, what have the patients been telling you?
Well, according to the patients, it's really affecting them because they have to spend more time here before they are attended to. And then it's something that is worrying, and they are calling on government to, as a matter of urgency, adhere to whatever that the nurses and midwives are demanding from them so that they will also benefit of the health care that they are supposed to get. And aside this, I also spoke to the medical director of the facility, Dr. Kakari, and he also has been telling me that the situation is also really impacting doctors because for he, for example, he's been here always. He doesn't even get the time to go home to even rest because of the pressure and the people that are coming upon him. So he has to stay in and ensure that each and everybody is attended to before he leaves the facility. Let's take a listen to what he also had to tell us.
Okay, our OPD attendance, the numbers have gone up. Our wards are full, and we have to cancel our elective cases for emergencies so that we can just take care of the emergencies that are coming. And almost every night we have 3, 4, 5 emergencies, that is surgeries. And normally we run a 24-hour OPD. And most of the time, the nights, it's not very busy, but ever since the strike started, it has always been busy. So essentially, that's the effect.
Okay, so you yourself, how is it affecting you?
I have been coming to work every day since the strike started. And I always have to make sure that everything's fine before I can go. It's when things calm down that I can go.
Claude Kumi Ebisa is a Bono region correspondent, and we just heard from the medical director of the SDA hospital, where the numbers have increased and the doctors are doing their best with the situation at hand. Let's come back to the capital city, Accra, where the Ghana Health Service is urging individuals who experience any symptoms of Mpox to report to the nearest health facility without delay. Ghana has now recorded some 85 cases of the viral disease. The Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Franklin Esiedu Bekoin, spoke earlier on New Day.
Let me say, as of yesterday, we had 85 confirmed cases. And with a case on admission. So that is the situation. But I need to put in the context that it's not just about the numbers increasing, which is the concern. We are looking at a few pointers. The issue is that is there a delay in reporting of cases? So that's one pointer. 2, what is the severity of cases as they report? 3, is there a death? So these are pointers that we need to look at. You see, what is happening is that, so Mpox, I would say, is common, it's also uncommon. Because you can have people who have rashes, but they will perceive it as chickenpox. So what is happening is that there were a number of people who had rashes, and they didn't think it was anything serious. Until it became severe, they had to be admitted. So we realized that a number of people have been exposed to the virus at the point in time. So as you have such a situation, then you tend to have a number of them reporting. Now that we declared an outbreak. So what we are seeing is that now, because of the increased awareness of the disease, people who hitherto would have thought it's a chickenpox will now come and report. So for us, as a service, we are looking at the duration of report. It's a concern. If you are coming early, it means that our message is quite right. It is not, I would say, a full-blown kind of outbreak, just that there are pockets which we classify as hotspots.
Let's focus on education now, but also from the labor front. Government has approved the payment of book and research allowances for senior members of public universities and colleges of education for the 2024-2025 academic year. In a letter cited by 3 News, which gives approval for the payment, it specifies that senior members of public tertiary institutions and the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana are eligible for the payment. On Monday, June 9th, 3 major teacher unions in Ghana's higher education sector, the University Teachers Association of Ghana, the Technical University Teachers Association of Ghana, and the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, decided to go on strike if government does not pay exchange rate differentials as well as book and research allowances. Let's recall Professor Ilyasu Mumuni, who is UTAG National Secretary. Remember, we spoke to them the first time that a threat was made. Now the reason for the threat has been resolved. So let's find out from him if this changes anything at all. Prof, it's your question to answer.
Thank you, and good afternoon to our cherished viewers and listeners. Yes, so significantly after our presser, a lot has happened. We've engaged government through the finance ministry, and the exchange rate release has been done. Subsequently, GTEC has communicated to the universities, and they would have started the auditing process validation to allow for payment immediately. So in that regard, yesterday we met with the National Labour Commission because as part of the issue, the release we had, it was more or less a formal notice as well, for which we engaged them to let them know that indeed we've had these issues resolved, and as such, there wouldn't be any execution of the threat we issued.
I see. So we can say you're happy now?
Temporarily, if you say so, we're happy, in the sense that it's a process. And of course, it takes the issue of the exchange to the universities processing the payment, and it gets back to the finance ministry for final approval, where individual members get it in their account. And with the goodwill and good faith engagement we've had, I think technically we can say we are happy, and we are hoping that the good faith will sail us through as we engage government to have the final payment made.
Are you then withdrawing your threat to strike?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Professor Ilyasu, thank you so much for talking to us. Professor Ilyasu Mumuni there, he's Secretary for UTAG. Now, the National Communications Authority it has directed several defaulting FM broadcasting stations across the country to immediately suspend operations due to persistent violations of broadcasting regulations. The directive follows an order from the Minister for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation, instructing the NCA to enforce sanctions on stations found non-compliant during a recent sector-wide audit. Now, the infractions, according to the NCA, violate key provisions of the Electronic Communication Act 775 and the Electronic Communications Regulations LI 1991. In the first phase of enforcement, the NCA identified 62 FM stations with varying regulatory breaches. The affected stations have been ordered to halt broadcasting until all regulatory issues are resolved and proper authorizations obtained. While emphasizing the crucial role of radio broadcasting in national development, the NCA warned that continued non-compliance could lead to severe penalties, including the revocation of broadcasting rights. Well, we can show you a breakdown of those numbers. Remember, we said that there are about 62 of them in total. Now, 28 stations have been found operating with expired authorizations. 14 stations failed to complete required setup procedures. We also know that 13 stations received provisional authorizations but have not completed fee payments. 7 stations paid provisional fees but have not fulfilled final authorization requirements. Oh, so I guess the NCA has warned. We can now bring you by the numbers. And today our focus is on gold for oil, because the policy is no more. What was once touted as one of the best economic policies, including since Ghana's independence, has now resulted in loss of over 2 billion cedis. Today on By the Numbers, we take a closer look at the now infamous gold for oil policy and why it failed. But before we dive into the details, let's hear from former Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, then head of the economic management team, on why he believes the policy was timely.
But to address this fundamental challenge that we all face of the persistent depreciation and its impact on fuel, in utility prices, food, and so on, government has opted to implement a policy of using our gold to buy oil products. That is something new, and it is the barter of sustainably mined gold for oil. This is one of the most important economic policy changes in Ghana since independence.
Well, the questions we'll be trying to answer now: where did things go wrong? As the policy achieved less than 30% of its intended objectives, what did we do wrong? The new governor of the central bank has since announced the completion of a review of the policy following its suspension in March earlier this year.
Oil program, which was implemented some time ago. You remember that at the last MPC press briefing, I made the point that we were reviewing our participation in the Gold for Oil program. Yes, indeed, we have reviewed that. The Ministry of Energy has set up a committee to look at the way forward as far as the Gold for Oil program is concerned. That committee is yet to come out with their findings. And so for now, what I can tell you is that the Gold for Oil program, as far as our participation was concerned, has been reviewed.
We look forward to those recommendations. In the meantime, what are the numbers telling us? And that's what we're going to do at this time. We'll start off with a quick timeline of what we know concerning the Gold for Oil program, which is no longer in existence, began in December of 2022. It was launched as an emergency response to fuel and forex crises, with domestic fuel prices at record high. So that the question we'll be trying to answer now is whether or not we were able to deal with the fuel and forex crises at the time it was introduced in 2022. Diesel was about 23 cedis per litre. Petrol was about 17 cedis per litre. And we already know that our currency was at record highs. I'll show you that in a bit. It ended in March 2025. I think that has been made already. The program, according to the new government, was terminated due to unsustainable financial losses, with new administration now prioritizing orthodox policies. But by 2024, the central bank, at the time not headed by Dr. Esiama, but by Dr. Addison, reported 1.82 billion forex losses from the Gold for Oil. Total loss reached about 2.137 billion cedis, about 45% of the capital deployed. So let's quickly look at what the financials were, right? We'll look at impact in a bit, but let's look at the financials. I already mentioned this, the losses that were accumulated between the period 2023-2024, some 2.1 billion Ghana cedis. Despite the 4 times growth from 2020, we had 32 tons of gold in the system. The percentage loss from this 2.13 billion is about 45% of the entire capital we deployed. But remember the question I asked from the beginning, whether we were able to deal with our fuel and forex crises that we were experiencing at the time. Well, this is what we came up with, that they only cover 30% of impact of our fuel imports. So now let's look at the impact. Looks like I'm in a hurry to look at the impact. So let's look at that, right? So here is it. The very first one on forex demand. Reduction for fuel imports, we only were able to chalk some 30%. It means that the whole 70%, we were still within the same, we were still using the old methods, right, to get our fuel into the country, because Gold for Oil couldn't cover the entire 100% as we had hoped. And so the result was that we had a limited price stabilization on fuel. Now, how about the cedi? We know that during the period between 2020 and 2024, our cedi had a really bad time on the currency market. There was some stabilization because it moved from 37.5% depreciation in 2023 to 19% in 2024. Now, that seemed that it was increasing at a reduced rate, if you get what I mean. It was still high, but not as high as back in 2023. So it did give us some stabilization as far as the Gold for Oil is concerned. But was the program effective, right? Our gold reserves growth moved from 8.7 tons to 32 tons. Forex demand reduction, 30% of fuel imports were covered, but we didn't get any financial sustainability, and that's what we see here, 2.137 billion in losses. You can understand why it failed. And that's what we plan to do at this point. Why did we register some 2.13 billion cedis in forex losses, even though we were hoping to shore up our currency, make our fuel imports cheaper. Now the question is, the answer to that, lack of transparency, will be first on the list. Undisclosed broker fees, volumes led to mistrust and allegations of mismanagement. Remember what unfavorable speculation does to any forex-related matter. It definitely will give you a loss, as we have seen. There was also very limited forex impact. I've talked about this enough. But then the complex implementation of the process also caused its 45% loss in the capital that was deployed, because there were multiple intermediaries, increasing costs and inefficiencies in the go-to-field conversion change. Now, no legislative oversight. That was also a problem that needed to be dealt with. And the temporary solution, as we hoped it will be, didn't address the root causes of currency depreciation, serving only as a stopgap measure. So what are the key takeaways from this? The program's financial losses outweighed its benefits, leading to its termination in 2025. Remember what I told you earlier. The new administration said, this is not sustainable, this is not the way to go. Now, while gold reserves increased, the barter mechanism proved inefficient and costly, and we've explained some of the reasons why it was inefficient. Then the last one, the program highlights the challenges of unconventional monetary interventions. Well, so now you know from the breakdown that we've given you why the gold for oil did not perform as much as we wanted it to. That'll be all for By the Numbers. Well, it's still News Central here on TV3. We'll take a very quick break, but there's a reason you should return with us, because there's some breaking news coming in. I'll share that when I come back. Don't go away. Well, we can now bring you that breaking news because this moment we know that the presidency has responded to that petition from investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri Awene regarding the discontinuation of the contracts between the YEA, Youth Employment Agency, and Zoomlion. This afternoon, the president has written back to the journalists indicating an interest to review the mode of contracting for the YEA. But the journalist is here with us. Before we speak to Manasseh, let me share with you a few things we are learning from that letter to Manasseh. Now, the government, in its response to Manasseh, says on the expiration of contract between Youth Employment Agency and Zoomlion, it has expired and will not be renewed. This letter signed by the Secretary to the President is very emphatic on that. On point 2, it also says it will audit all payments and claims made to Zoomlion after the contract's expiration. No further payments will be authorized without proper verification, and any unauthorized payments will be recovered. It also goes on to say, Cabinet has directed that future sanitation contracts be subjected to a competitive procurement process rather than one national contract. There should be regional or district-based tenders for private firms. Now, this could reduce costs through competitive pricing and stimulate innovation as companies compete on service quality to secure contracts. A cabinet subcommittee will develop the modalities for implementing this. The government also goes on to say in that letter that it will look into sweeper fees and increase those fees to a more livable income. And on fumigation contracts, this letter states that contracts that have not been performed satisfactorily will be reviewed and, where appropriate, terminated in accordance with their terms and upon the advice of the Attorney General. So that's the response to journalist Manasseh Azuri Awene, who wrote to the president to discontinue the expired contracts between the Youth Employment Agency and Zoomlion Ghana Limited. Let's have a quick chat with Manasseh, who's joining us via Zoom. Manasseh, it must be a good afternoon hearing back from the president and nearly responding to many of the concerns that you have raised.
Well, Kemini, only a few afternoons in my life could be better than this very one. And this has been 12 years of consistent and persistent advocacy, and also putting out investigative reports and evidence of how bad this deal was and wasn't helping the country in the sanitation sector, and also the way we use our resources. And I can be thankful enough to His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama for this bold step.
Manasseh, I also noticed some of the bullet points, so to speak, the key things that the presidency tackles in the letter. For instance, we can talk about the livable income for people who sweep. That is good news, isn't it?
Yes, it is. One thing that has never left my mind was when I first did this story, I spoke to a 49-year-old widow who said she was doing this to take care of her 3 children. And anytime I have seen these people being exploited, that woman's interview always comes to mind. It is very unconscionable that human beings with brains would sit down and say that someone would work for a month, they don't have health insurance, they don't have transportation, they don't have any form of benefit. And at the end of the month, they go home with only 250 cedis. And some have tried to argue that, well, they don't work for all the 8 hours of the day. But we know how sweepers and cleaners work. The sweepers or cleaners at TV3 don't come and work throughout the day. They come in the morning, work, and then we go home, they come back to clean. That's how cleaners work across the world. So even if you claim that what they do merits 250 cedis, why do you pay someone 600 cedis to manage a 250 cedis worth of work? And that ill motivation has affected how they go out to work, and so many of them have stopped, but you have this company being paid for 45,000 people, and it makes about 27 million Ghana cedis a month. That's Zoomlion from this deal, whilst those working don't receive anything. So I'm very, very happy that going forward, the government is going to pay these people more. We are human beings, our brothers, sisters, mothers, and fathers, and it is only fair that they are paid well.
When I say outside of cancelling or discontinuing the contracts with Zoomlion, the presidency also looks to perform some audits in payments and claims, as well as in the fumigation contracts. How crucial are these steps?
They are, and these are issues I included in my petition. It wasn't only to discontinue the contract and increase the wages of the sweepers, but over the years, if you went to the YEA and then asked them to give you a list of the people on the ground sweeping, they wouldn't be able to say it. Even when YEA conducted its own research and went to the ground to do a head count, they got about 38,000 people on the ground. Even that, they said people were even included without they giving them appointment letters. But Zoomlion bills the government for 45,000, and the government has been paying, even though it could not and can still not say that this is the number on the ground which the company brings. So this is crucial to save us some money. And also with this fumigation, if you went to every assembly today and asked them whether they feel any impact of the fumigation, they'll tell you no. But there have been 3 separate fumigation contracts awarded to Zoomlion and its companies running concurrently, and then they pay them from the District Assembly's Common Fund, from the Ghana the National Health Insurance Levy. When hospitals were struggling for money, it emerged that the government had paid over 184 million cedis to Zoomlion for fumigation, which is not done. Hundreds of millions of cedis are paid yearly, also from the local government's ministry. So if we want to put all of this together, you would realize that this is a company which has been fleecing the state, of course, with the connivance of very unconscionable persons that we elect to serve as leaders. And I'm happy that after 12 years of advocacy, we have a president that is listening and is prepared to act. And we shouldn't just end here. We should all try to see that what they have announced, they will do it, so that Ghana will save some money, and then our society and the country will also be clean.
Indeed, when Manasseh on point 3, we know that a cabinet subcommittee will develop modalities for implementing competitive procurement. I mean, that's something we spoke about in our last conversation, that this should be opened up so that it's much more competitive. But as they decide on modalities, having learned so much from how this is operated, what are the pitfalls they should be avoided?
They should avoid giving it back to the same company, because when I did my investigation in 2017, Zoomlion had 25 separate companies for environment alone or sanitation alone. And in all the Zoomlion group or the Jospon group had over 80 companies, but sanitation alone 25. So we should avoid taking it at the national level and then handing it over. And then with the sweepers, we don't even need any company to supervise the sweepers. The assemblies and the YEA can do that. So no matter how this goes, even if they open it up, if this contract was to be given to someone else other than Zoomlion, I would still have protested, because we don't need a third party to come and supervise people to sweep in my district, Bongo district, or where I grew up, Kitekrachi, when we have people on the payroll of the state working at the sanitation department of the assemblies, they can do that. So a chunk of these contracts are not needed. The fumigation is not needed. It should be only when they want to fumigate a particular place. The assemblies can buy the equipment. Many of them have the equipment. They can send their people to do that. So the very few that are left will be the one to lift the waste from the communal container site to the final disposal site.
Very well.
This is what I think they should. But even with that, it shouldn't be only one company. Zoomlion has failed and uses media and others to just project itself. But when you go to the assemblies, they are reeling in filth, and there's so much evidence of the company's inefficiencies. So they shouldn't just say, well, we are taking it from the national level, but you go to every assembly and they give it back to the same entity. It is still not going to work. And then we should, in the coming days, weeks, months, and years, still police the system to ensure that the right thing is done.
Very well, Manasseh, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Manasseh Azuriawone is an investigative journalist. News just in, the government has cancelled, or rather, the government says it will not renew its contract between the YEA and Zoomlion Ghana Limited. On the contrary, it has outlined a number of things it will do, including auditing payments and claims to Zoomlion, auditing fumigation contracts that have been given out already, possibly increasing sweeper fees to livable income, and conduct competitive procurement process at the national, regional, and district level for private firms. And we've just been talking to the journalist who petitioned the president on that, giving his views on some pitfalls that need to be avoided to ensure that the mistakes of the past, as he has outlined, will not be repeated. We'll hear from the company at hand in subsequent broadcasts. Right now, however, let's turn attention to health, because Parliament's Health Committee is meeting leadership of striking Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association today. This is part of moves to help resolve the ongoing industrial action by the association. Now, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association declared a strike last week to demand the implementation of its 2024 collective agreement. Well, now, that'll be all for now. Thank you so much for your company. News Central returns tomorrow with another edition. Well, but just before we go, let's talk to Christian Yale, who is our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent. Christian, quickly talk to us about
Exactly, Kamini. As of now, I can confirm to you that for over 2 hours, the meeting has been in session between the Committee on Health as well as the leadership of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. We also do understand that there are officials from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission who are in attendance to this meeting. The initial arrangement was to allow the media to cover it, but we're later told to excuse them so that they host this meeting behind closed door, after which the committee would fashion out modalities or framework for addressing the concerns by the nurses. These frameworks will be discussed in conclave before Parliament or the plenary would sit at 2 p.m. But we also understand that even earlier Tuesday, the ranking member on the head committee, Dr. Ayu Afriye, had wanted to, make an urgent statement on the issue, which led to a sort of chaos in the chamber. And so we are looking forward to the closure to that meeting, after which they would brief the media on the key issues that they discussed and the way forward.
And thank you so much for talking to us. Christian Yale is our parliamentary affairs correspondent today. We can now take our leave of you. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of News Central. Next year is the afternoon show. I'm Kemini Amano. Bye-bye.